Hello, I'm Jenna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. This week over at the Funky Junkie Inspiration Avenue, we are creating to the theme of all about alcohol inks. So today we're pulling out the alcohol inks and an alloy to create a fun celestial themed card. If you'd like to see exactly which supplies I'm going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. So today is all about alcohol inks, and that means we're going to be starting with a base of Yupo paper. We're going to be creating a cosmic themed background. I am very happy to have a chance to pull out the alcohol inks. I don't play with these nearly as much as I should. And we're going to be using a drippy technique with these. So what we need some 91% isopropyl alcohol. We're going to be pulling in the colors Laguna, Vineyard, Glacier, and Cobalt. This will give us our initial background. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the alcohol inks and we're going to just drip them right onto the top of the Yupo paper. And then we will move these around with the isopropyl. So I'm being pretty generous and just putting down all sorts of ink. There we go. Now we need some of the cobalt. Okay, if we need to, I can always go back later and tweak the colors, but I'm pretty happy. Now I'm going to change the camera angle because this technique looks best if you're looking at it from straight on. Okay, so we have our paper right here, and we're already getting some lovely drips, but we want to encourage those drips to flow a bit more. Now, just tucking a cloth to help absorb some of the spillover. But what we're going to do, we're going to take the isopropyl and we're going to spritz that across the top of this and let the alcohol ink work its magic. So we're going to be very generous with our spritzing. And there we go. Now we have a lovely drip. So I'm just going to lift that so we can see. I'm going to dab this off on the towel that I have. And we'll let this dry. But I love the effect of this. This is really cool. Okay, so we'll set this off to the side, and that would be the start to our celestial themed card today. Next, we're going to be pulling in a second sheet of Yupo paper. With this, we're going to be creating a golden yellow background to die cut a moon out of. To start with, we're going to be pulling in some dandelion. And we're also going to be pulling in an alloy. This one is gilded. In addition to these two alcohol inks, we're also going to need some blending solution. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to add our alcohol ink. We've got some dandelion, and we're just going to spread that around and get our background going. So with the ink blower tool, we want to do little puffs of air. We don't want to do big ones. We're not taking blood pressure, as Tim says. We are just moving the ink around. All right, so I want to go and add a little bit of the rubbing alcohol. Get that to move just a little bit more. I want this to be more flowy than splotchy. You know what? I'm going to go in with a bit of blending solution. That should get us some decent movement. There we go. Now we're moving. It's been a while since I've played with alcohol inks, so kind of getting used to this all over again. Okay. And I think I need a little bit more dandelion. I'm going to be really generous with this and just go for it. I'm not really going for like a really super flowy pattern. I'm just going for some texture. I want to get the ink moving. And this is going to become part of a moon, so it doesn't need to be like really even. It just needs to have the color. Okay, so with the alloys, we want to give these a really, really good shake. And we just ideally want just a couple of drops when we add this. So we've got that. Let's see what this does. Just going to kind of try to tease that out, and I'm trying to get that really beautiful marbling effect with this, but you know, it's been quite a while since I played with these, so well, we'll see. I'm not really sure what we're going to get just right now, but the only way to find out is to experiment and play. Let's see what happens if I add a little bit of alcohol. What's that going to do? Okay, so I'm starting to get some of those little rivulets that I was looking for, but yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just going to kind of explore this and see what happens. Okay, let's try a little bit more of the alloy. Ooh, there we go. Now it's starting to do what I'm looking for. All right, now as I recall, we do not want to use the alcohol, not the alcohol, but the isopropyl with the alloys. For this, we want blended solution. So I'm getting a few little rivulets going, which is what I want. You can see like right here. That's good. That's just what I'm going for. Okay, I'm definitely getting some interesting texture on here, so that's great. I'm going to try shaking this up again, and we're going to add like a little bit more over here. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got. So this is pretty interesting. I didn't really get the marbling that I was going for, but we've got some really interesting striation patterns going, so that will be fun to die cut. So the next thing that we're going to do will be to start building the base of the card. Now, we have our background. It's all nice and dry. Before we bring that in, though, I want to clean up our work spot with just a dash of hand sanitizer. Okay, just want to clean this up, and then we will size our background. So of course I'll bring in the mini tonic trimmer. We've got that. Got our background, and I'll just quickly mark that so I know where I'm going to be slicing. Okay, so as always we're going with 4 1/4. So I've got that there. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will make a quarter. So we've got that, and then we'll mark at 5 1/2. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/2 goes there. Perfect. Okay, and one more cut. There we go. And we have our ready background. The next thing that we are going to do will be to pull in our Duralar. I wanted to add some sparkly stars onto our background, but the thing is, it can be challenging to emboss on Yupo paper. This is a synthetic plastic, so if we add too much heat, we definitely run the risk of warping. However, Duralar is intended to be heat stable, so we could emboss, or we can use Minc ink. So let's go ahead. We're going to pull in our piece of Duralar. Got that right here. And we're going to take some Minc ink and we're going to be stamping some stars across this. Now, I'm pulling in a seasonal stamp set that has some lovely stars on it. I decided to pull in the set Jolly Holiday CMS 474. We're just going to be borrowing those gorgeous stars from this set. So let's take that. We'll put the rest of the stamps off to the side. We will need a stamping block and our Minc ink. So to apply Minc ink, we need a brayer, and I have the Tim Holtz Ranger brayer here. And I like to use a scrap piece of plastic to put our Minc ink on. So what I like to do is we take the scrap piece of plastic, and then I take the Minc ink and we drizzle that onto the plastic. Now we don't need a lot, but we need enough so that I'll be able to stamp several times. All right, that should be good. Now we'll just set this off to the side. The next thing that we're going to do will be to move the ink around with the brayer. Now, we can't just directly stamp with the ink. We have to get it to a certain consistency. We're going to move this along like that. Okay. So when it starts to become just a little bit tacky, just like that, we know it is time to stamp. So I'm going to take our stamp. We're just going to go directly. You know what? I can actually use the brayer for this. We can put that right on with the brayer. Just a very light touch. We can't roll it too many times because if it gets too tacky, then the ink will pull up and away from our stamp. So we're going to take that and we're going to start stamping. And I want to have stars all over the Duralar. So just do that. Add more ink. And stamp. Oh, it's going to look so good. And we're going to be using some foil to get that shine after the Minc ink is all nice and dry. Now, Minc ink is by Heidi Swap. And a while ago on Instagram, Tim and Heidi did this amazing double feature where Tim showed how to do the sprayer technique with the Minc ink and his stamps. I absolutely fell in love with the technique and I use it every chance that I end up playing with Minc ink. It's such a great way to use different brands together, and I just love the effect that we can get with the Tim Holtz line of stamps. All right, take that. All right, one more stamping and I should be all set. Very good. So applying it with the brayer is probably my favorite way. It's even and it's really easy to see where all of your ink is going. Okay, and stamp. There we go. We've got our lovely starry background. So I'm going to let this dry for a moment and then we're going to run that through the Minc machine. Now, the nice thing about using the scrap plastic is when you're done, you just toss it out. I have tried using some of my older craft mats for this. It works, but I think the scrap plastic for me is just more practical. Now, to clean the brayer, we're just going to run that along that scrap plastic, and as you can see, it just pulls away. When that ink starts to dry, it dries really, really fast. And you can just run the brayer along the plastic, and the ink, as I said, if you layer it too many times on itself, it starts to pull away. So look at that, super easy cleaning on the brayer. No soap or water required, just a little bit of rubbing, a little bit of friction. So there we go. Nice, easy way to clean up. Now the stamp, this will need some special attention, and I need to clean this with archival stamp cleaner. That way the Minc ink won't turn into a gunky residue. So we have the Ranger Archival Ink Cleaner. We just dab that on here, and I'll just take my cloth and scrub that off, because if we leave it, it's going to get pretty yucky long term. So, got the cloth, got the cleaner, and now we just do a little bit of scrubbing. And as you can see, the Minc ink comes right off if we clean it right away. So, this would go back to the strategy of clean as you go. That way, next time you want to use different tools, they will be all ready for use. Okay. Oh, looks like I need just a little bit more. There's a couple of spots that didn't quite get as clean as I wanted, but not a problem. So again, just take the cloth and we just scrub those little areas off. Okay. And now this is all clean for the next time we want some stars. All right, now let's bring in the Minc machine. So the first thing, I've got the Minc carrier. This is a folded piece of plastic, and we'll use that to sandwich our foil and background in. So this is the mini Minc. This is the one that I prefer. It comes in a larger size as well, but I like this one quite a bit. So essentially, you turn it on, and then using the gold button, you can select the level of heat that you want when you are sending your piece through. I like to set it on 4. 4 seems to work really well, and just depending on what you're adding foil to, you can change the settings around. Okay, so I'm going to grab some foil, and we're going to layer things up and run this through. So we're going to be pulling in some deco foil, and this needs heat in order to transfer onto the surface that has the Minc ink. Now what I've done is I've cut some of the deco foil down to size, and we're placing it over the top of the Duralar that we've stamped on. I have a second little strip right here to cover that end piece. There we go. And now I'm just going to place this into the carrier sheet. So we take this, we open this up, and we place that in. Oh, I forgot. The Duralar is kind of large, but you know what? We should be okay. I might have to run this through twice. That shouldn't be a problem. But I think I want to run that. Oh, let's try it like this. Yeah, that shouldn't be bad. I can run this second section through after. So we're going to take this and we're going to feed it through. And go from there. All right. So we're placing that on this side of the Minc machine. Oh, other side. I always forget which side is the feeding side. So it goes through this side. There. And I'll just flip it around after to do the second side. So we just feed that through, and it goes through nice and smooth. We don't need to do anything. We just wait for it to come out the other side, just like a laminator, except the temperatures on this are different than what you'd have on a laminating machine. Okay, so that's going through. All right. There we go. And I'm just going to flip this and run it through in the opposite direction as well, so we can get both sides nice and even. It looks like it might have done the thing already, but I want to flip it just to be certain. There we go. And we'll feed it through again. There. So this feeds through relatively fast, which is nice. And the carrier sheet does come in different sizes. Like the larger machine has a 12 by 12 carrier sheet that you can use. And this one is about, like, I want to say maybe 8 inches. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5. No, this one's a 6-inch carrier sheet. So that is good. But the mini one works quite well for me. Now, another tip that I learned from Tim is that you can run your backgrounds through here. Like if you have a background that was, let's say, a watercolored background, you can actually flatten paper through the Minc machine. Just don't run anything through it that was embossed, because that's going to remelt your embossing powder. All right, so this has gone through. Let's see what we got. Well, it looks like a couple spots didn't quite go through. I think I need to run that a second time. The nice thing about this is that if something isn't running quite right, you can run things through a second time to try to get a clearer impression. So I'll just take that and run it through again. So with these, I like to kind of like check the corner, do like a little lift to make sure that everything is behaving the way it should be. Because if you don't take it all the way off, then you can just place it right back and run it through the machine again. All right. And we'll take a second look. There we go. Let's see how that went. You know what? I might leave that a second to cool just a little bit. Let's see how this side went. Ooh. That's looking good. There. I've got a couple of little spots that are a little wonky, but I wonder if that's just because they haven't cooled enough. All right, so I am going to just turn off the machine. I'll tuck that out of the way for the time being. Okay. And all right, let's see what we got. There we go. That looks great. Now let's see how we're doing over here. There we go. We've got all sorts of beautiful shiny stars. I'm so happy with the way that turned out. That is going to look great. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it down to size, and that's going to go right over this. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to cut from this side. All right, so I need to bring back the tiny trimmer, and we're going to snip this. All right, there we go. And the scraps, you could use these over again, but I find that to be more trouble than it's worth. I'm just going to have to discard that. Some people like to go in with more toner ink and do an entire background using that, but I haven't had very much success with that, but that's okay. All right, tiny trimmer. And I'm going to have some lovely leftover scraps that I'll be able to use on other projects. Okay, that's one side, and here's the other side. Okay. So I've got some beautiful starry scraps that I'll use on a future project. And now it is time to put our background together. So we cannot glue this. It is not going to look good if we use glue. So instead of gluing things, we're going to be using the tiny attacher. This is by Tim Holtz and Tonic. Oh, Ideology, actually. Stamped right there. So let's layer this up. And staple. Now for the staples, I'm going to be hiding those with some decorative tape. I'm just going to do the 4 corners, and that should lock everything into place quite nicely. Oh, wow, I'm actually out of tiny staples. So just a moment, I'm going to refill this and we'll be right back. So just for reference, the tiny attacher does come with its own stash of staples, but you also can get refills for this. And it comes in this nice little box, and you just pop the box open and you've got all sorts of refills in there. So to refill this, what we do, there's a tab back here. Pull that down, then lift this open. And now we can drop our staples in. There we go. So close that down. Push that back. And all nicely refilled. Okay. And staple. And staple. So here we go. We've got our beautiful celestial background. Now let's go ahead and hide those staples. I'm going to be bringing in the ATG tape gun, and we're going to use that to help with the adhesion of our decorative tape. So as always, we just run that thin little strip down the side, tuck the extra tape over, and I've got this one with the dots on it. Black seemed like the right color to go with our celestial theme. So we'll just run that down the sides. There we go. Tuck that. And we'll just keep going all the way around. And that's going to hide our staples. More tape. Rip. Line it up. There we go. And cover. I just love adding borders. And I wish I could get more of this tape. I can get in a pack, but I'd love to have like just more of that one type of tape all on its own. I use this one so much. And anything with black in it, I think makes a great border. It anchors a design, and just anything with black in it. That makes me very happy. Okay. Got that. There we go. Tape edges. Excellent. You know, I was just thinking the little circles on this kind of make me think of moons too, so that really fits our theme. Okay. Looks good. And last piece of tape. Okay, now on to the die cut portions of this card. So we'll be right back after I die cut a moon out of the alcohol ink paper that we altered. So I've got an old one here. This is a big sty, one of my absolute favorites. This is Crescent Moon and Stars. Absolutely love this, and that moon is perfect for card bases. All right, let's return in just a moment. So we have our card base, we've got our background. Now let's add our focal points. For that, we've die cut a moon out of the old vintage Sizzix die set, a big die, Crescent, Moon, and Stars. And this is the alcohol inked paper that we used earlier. So we're going to be placing that right there. I've got a few foam squares to pop that up. We'll add a little bit of dimension to this. So just put a few of these right on here. Okay. So let's just take those little squares off the back. And we add the moon. I am loving how this is all coming together. We've got our beautiful starry background. We kind of got a little bit of an aurora borealis going on back there. So let's go ahead. We'll take the moon. I can go right here. Love that. It's very vibrant. And I couldn't resist, but I wanted to add a cat. So the cat's going to go right here. And we'll add a couple more foam squares. I've got some slightly thicker ones to pop it up with. There we go. There. We've got our cat. And let's see. I do want to add a couple of little features to the cat. So I'm going to be pulling in a white gel pen. I can do a little triangle nose, little face, got some whiskers, and drawing in the eyes too. Why not? There we go. Now we've got a happy little black cat on here. I like that. And for our sentiment, I'm pulling in a label sticker. This is from Ideology. I couldn't resist. Shine brightly. Which is just perfect considering all of the lovely stars we have here. So we'll just tuck that in right there. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for all about alcohol inks. Today we have used a couple different alcohol ink techniques. In our background we did a spritz and drip technique with a whole bunch of vibrant alcohol inks. Then we had a little play with some alcohol ink and alloys in order to get this really fun moon. Then we put all of this together with a combination of Minc ink, deco foil, and a few favorite Sizzix die cuts, along with a Ideology label sticker to finish everything off. I hope that you've enjoyed today's fun alcohol ink card tutorial, and until next time, happy crafting!